What's happening, guys? Happy Sunday and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, it is guest season. I am super excited. I'll introduce our guest in just a second, but I want to introduce my co-host. We were just talking before I hit the record button. Haven't had this guy on his own podcast since January. He is, in fact, the man of the hour and the man with the power. Jerry, the workaholic Sinclair. What's going on, buddy?
I'm not even a workaholic. That's the problem. I'm lazy as all hell. I don't do anything when I'm there. But no, they sent me to Omaha. I've been there for the last 2 weeks. This past week, I've been fighting influenza A. Sound like hell a little bit. I actually don't have a whiny voice for the first time in the 6 years we've done this podcast, so that might actually be a benefit to me. But yeah, my dog Nino Brown in the motherfucking building. Let's go.
Yep. That is in fact our guest tonight. This is, like I said, I love guest season. You get to hang out with all your old friends. Jerry mentioned it. Our guest is Nino Brown @ Nino Brown _. He is part of the CFB Nation. This guy knows football as well as anybody, especially these college players. He's been tracking them since high school, and he's a great follow. And Nino, welcome back to the show, buddy.
I appreciate being on. Anytime I get to be on the show with you two gentlemen, it's always a party, and I'm excited to talk ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Love having you on. As a Dynasty content creator, and really, where do we all start? Like, I started playing Dynasty fantasy football. Not only is this the funnest time of the year to be doing Dynasty because you can start working on your roster, making trades and everything. But for me as a content creator, I get to hang out with people like Nino. We've had Jesse Schneeman on. We've had Dallas Hyder on. Jerry, I don't want to alarm you, but next Sunday I have Theo Grimminger scheduled to be on the podcast with us. So I know you have a history of ducking him.
Yeah, obviously. So I'll have to be extra sick next week. Got it.
He'll be back in Omaha before you know it. And you had a shout out. You had the influenza. I want to send a shout out to Brittany. Brittany does all of our thumbnails for the Player Profiler Now Plus. When you see and you see Nino's beautiful face right there on that, that's Brittany. She's sick. She just got back from doing correspondent work for Player Profiler at the Super Bowl, and she was on Bourbon Street. It could be the brown bottle flu. I think it's the actual flu. But shout out to Brittany. I hope you feel better. Nino, man, what's going on with CFB Nation? I know you're helping us out from the Dynasty perspective. Your passion is college ball and the Devy world. What's going on with you all?
We just got back from Senior Bowl a couple weeks ago. Like I was saying in the green room, we're kind of diving into team outlooks for 2025. So we're doing the MAC conference, and then Conference USA will be my man Moon will be doing that. My man Moon's been diving into the HBCU football schools. Got a couple articles on the website. So, and then every Tuesday we're doing Devi Darlins. So we just finished up running back out of Boise State, Dubai, Jambries Dubai. Is he going to be, the guy that's going to step up to fill Aston Genty's shoes, or is it somebody else?
Is he going to be a worthy backup, or is he going to go like the way of like a Miles Sanders? Like, remember when it was Barkley coming out of Penn State? We got this stud named Miles Sanders. He's going to come in and he's going to take those shoes. How does Dubois? I hope I pronounce. My French is not what it used to.
Randy can't speak French. No problem.
I can barely speak English. But tell us about Dubois.
He gives me, he's got that inside-outside game, right? He's got hands. He's quick. May not maybe make him miss in a phone booth, but he's switching enough to get separation just off one cut. I think he's going to play, in a running back by committee to start out with Sire Gaines, but I think this kid has all the talent to kind of take that RB1 role, be a 3-down back. He can pass pro. He's got the size to him. He's like 191 right now, but only had 1 year at college in the gym. I think another year or so in this spring, you might be able to put another couple pounds on. He gets that 200-pound mark at 6 foot. What he can do, his shake. He doesn't have that like top end speed, but he's got enough speed where you're staring at the number the rest of the way once he gets by you. So I think at that 200-pound mark, he can be that all around back you need.
All right, and that's for all of our Devy friends. What was we're going to talk more about this entire class. What was your biggest takeaway from the Senior Bowl? You mentioned that you've been down there, was it 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row, something like that? Yeah, and what was your big takeaway? Because now you're no longer a rookie, to use a term, you're no longer a rookie of the Senior Bowl. You kind of know what to expect. You kind of have seen guys break out from the Senior Bowl. What was your big takeaway from the Senior Bowl?
For me this year was a lot of the small school guys kind of who got a lot of attention, and there was a lot more eyes down there this year. A lot of ESPN, a lot of NFL Network, a lot of NFL scouts. I think after last year's trench battle, and a lot of scouts kind of enjoying that and getting success out of that in the draft from the Senior Bowl. I think there was more guys down there this year, but a lot of small school guys, offensive line guys, Sacramento State, Jackson Slater, Texas Tech, Rogers, those guys, they were dominant. There was another gentleman, Zabel out of North Dakota State, as offensive line, like versatile, can play multiple positions, didn't really lose reps. And then, guy on the offensive side, Marcus Yance, man, Delaware running back. This kid was like shot out of a cannon on every rep. Especially one thing I've been saying on a lot of shows, when it came to pass game, this dude had a special knack for getting into a higher gear at the top of the route in his cut. Most people slow down in the cut, lose a little speed. This dude exploded in and out of the cut and was making linebackers look kind of silly out there.
And what was his name again out of Delaware?
Marcus Yarns.
Marcus Yarns. See, for those of you that are listening on the podcast, at least for the podcast listener, you got a very special Boston, Nino's from Fall Rivers, Mass, but I created a very special Boston themed open for the podcast listener. But for those of you watching on YouTube, you see Jerry and I, we both literally have ink pens and paper. We're writing these names down so that we're ready. And if you want to get ready for your upcoming Dynasty season, you may want to check out Dynasty Deluxe.
If you play in Dynasty, you need Dynasty Deluxe, our premium package for Dynasty Leaguers. We rank over 300 players, updated every week, all year long. And there's a win now mode and a rebuild mode with Superflex and tight end premium controls. And a Dynasty League sync, where you can say, sync down all of my sleeper teams, all my FFPC teams, and then you can browse around your leagues for who has needs, and then you can use our trade finder to see what kinds of trades are happening in leagues that are similar to the one I want to do. Then you can analyze trades using our trade analyzer, which balances the lifetime value, which includes pick values out to 2028. All of that plus the rookie guide, $25 value, is included. So if you're just in one Dynasty League, Dynasty Deluxe is well worth it. And use your host's promo code, and you can bump up to All In and get $25 off.
Yeah, when you hit that All In, use promo code WarZone. WARZONE. Use promo code WarZone, and that'll save you on the All In package. Now, normally this is where we do good people, bad tweets. I am not going to do that. Not that Nino wouldn't have some good takes. He'd bury some people on some bad tweets. But we really want to stick to these rookies with Nino. And people often ask, hey, Memphis, why when you do a show with guests, especially guys like Nino, why do you only keep it to about an hour? Well, because, guys, like I told Nino in the green room, we could do a Joe Rogan-esque podcast. But what I want you to do is I want you to take as much from Nino's time with us today and then head over to his channels and subscribe so that you get the goodness that is Nino Brown. But Nino, you mentioned the Senior Bowl. Can I ask you a question about the Senior Bowl in that with NIL, has it made guys stay in college longer? And because of that, has it made the quality of player at the Senior Bowl, because more guys are playing college into their senior year, has it made the product of the Senior Bowl better over the last few years that you've been?
So I'm going to kind of take a part from Jim Nagy, director of the Senior Bowl. He made it very clear, last year, with NIL kind of coming to fruition and being a thing, these 5th, 6th, and 7th round NFL draft picks have very little value now, right? Because guys are going to stay in college to make more money. So guys are coming in, have no option, they have no eligibility left. They're saying, screw it, I'll take a shot, you know what I mean? And maybe make on a roster that are going in for these late round picks. So you see a lot of them package deals. I'll give you 2 5ths and a 7th to get a 4th, right? But, these guys aren't dumb. Nagy's smart. They allow juniors that are draft eligible to play in the Senior Bowl now, which makes it a lot more spicier, makes it a lot more interesting. We've seen guys like, Damian Martinez and Ollie Gordon get added as these, juniors are coming in. So it could have been a bad thing. It could have went down a bad road, where you're just getting guys just hoping to make it in there that are going to the Senior Bowl. But these guys do really good work. They do really good in-depth, player analysis and breakdown to get guys in it that they know are going to have NFL futures. I mean, yeah, just look at like the top teams in the NFL. A lot of these teams, Philadelphia, they live at the Senior Bowl. They live drafting guys out of the Senior Bowl. So they've adapted. That's one thing with Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl. They've adapted every year with how things change with college football to get the program and this Senior Bowl to be as good as it is and improve every single year. So I think with adding the juniors this year, they didn't miss a hiccup. I think the product was just as good, if not better, than it was the year before.
Jerry, do you have any Senior Bowl questions before we move on?
Yeah, who was somebody, since you've been there for a couple of years, right? So you know sort of if somebody's sort of full of shit, you know what I mean? Like they have a good Senior Bowl day and maybe it doesn't come to fruition. So who's somebody that you saw there and you went, shit, I didn't really think they were going to look that good. And sort of you went back and they've sort of, I don't know, piqued your interest a little bit.
I give it to, dynasty guys that could probably be something. I know tight ends take a while to pop. Going in there, Harold Fanning Jr. was a guy that I was all about, right? Took him a little bit. But the guy that really stood out to me that I was like, okay, yeah, this guy can do it. It's not just the name and the pedigree behind him. It's not just his dad, Jason Taylor. Mason Taylor out of LSU, tight end, big guy, right? This dude was killing people in the red zone, killing people on one-on-ones on the second and third day. He can dominate you in run block and dominate in pass pro, chips well, slides. He did really, really good. He the second and third day, I don't think that dude lost any reps when it came to the one-on-ones. And even in the 7-7s, he knew where he had to be. His assignment, he did well. As a wide receiver, Kyle Williams out of Washington State, right? Had a year with Cam Ward before Cam Ward left and went to Miami. This kid just continued to win. The first day quarterback play wasn't very good. A lot of these guys are rusty. They don't really play on the center, right? Most of these guys are taking, shotgun snaps. So day one, they were kind of rusty, throws it off. He was missed a lot on day one, but he was getting open and he was beating guys. The third day, he had trouble when they pressed him a little bit. You know what I mean? But at top of routes, he was beating guys. He was getting open. He didn't really drop balls. When balls were in his area, he caught almost everything. He impressed me. He's a guy that I think, may have went from a later round guy to possibly creeping up there into the fourth round.
I love it because the Senior Bowl is where, like, especially the wide receivers, even going back to a couple of guys, and it's so odd to hear that, like, Cooper Kupp is going to get cut. He's, likely to be on a new team. I remember 2017 when we first started doing content, Cooper Kupp popped at the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. And not that I needed a lot with Terry McLaurin coming out of Ohio State, but Terry McLaurin looked really good as a senior as well. I wrote down Kyle Williams, Marcus Yarns, Mason Taylor. Is there anyone else before we move on from the Senior Bowl topic? Anything else that
Tyler, the quarterback department, Tyler Shuck, however they want to say his name. I constantly mess it up. It's Shough, but it's sounded different than it's spelled. I'll tell you that. This kid, I mean, he's been playing football for a while, right? I think he's got a year or extra than Cam Ward. I think it's 7 years, 6 years, somewhere in that department. I think he's going to be 25 when he goes into the if he gets drafted and starts on NFL roster, to be 25 at that point. Kid's got a strong arm. Right, we saw that this year at Louisville. From Texas Tech this year, he was at Louisville. We saw that this year at Louisville. Strong arm. He was making these tight throws. He was the better quarterback out of all of them at the Senior Bowl this year. He was voted top QB by his peers. I mean, that speaks volumes, right? When the guys on the defensive side of the ball and your receivers are voting you top QB, it's got to say something. But the kid he can make the layer throws. He can make the bucket throws. He has really, really good pocket presence. Doesn't really get rattled. He doesn't have that happy feet like a couple of other guys I see in this draft. But yeah, this kid definitely, I think, raised his draft stock. Made himself some money for sure. In this class, it's somewhere between 3 and 6. It's kind of just a jumbled mess of quarterbacks, right? I think he put himself a little bit higher in that 3 to 6 department coming in where he might have been out of that 3 to 6 department prior to the draft.
I love it. We could do the entire show on the Senior Bowl because, and it's on my bucket list. I mean, that's been the beautiful part of working with Player Profiler. I've already went to the NFL draft. I got invited to be part of the team at the Super Bowl. Couldn't make it. I am going to do the combine. I am going to go to the combine because I live here in Indy. Right, for me, it's right down the road. I can get one day off at work. It's hard to get 3 or 4. Given the season that I'm in at work, but the Senior Bowl total bucket list for me. Let's move into some quarterbacks. My first question, and you may have just mentioned it with Tyler Sowell. We'll go with that. Are there any other potential late round or sleeper QBs who could develop? Like I love in Superflex drafts to draft the, it's easy to say Brock Purdy.
Everybody else hates. If the whole community hates a fucking quarterback, Randy's drafting that guy on 75% of his teams.
I am a contrarian.
Who's somebody that everybody's going to hate and you don't hate him?
I'll go with everybody hates him. Randy will probably draft him because I'm going to put 2 questions together because he has the rushing upside. He's probably the only quarterback in this class that has rushing upside in fantasy. That's Milroe, right? I said it at the Senior Bowl. I'm kind of going to stick to this. I mean, Riley Leonard has rushing upside. I just don't know that the team's going to draft him because he doesn't have his passing game needs a lot of work. Even at the Senior Bowl, there were times where he was just taking the ball and running when they were doing passing drills. It's like, come on, homie, just throw the ball. We all know you can run. Just throw the ball. Milroe, the thing is he's raw. He still has a lot to learn. They see the potential, kind of like you saw with Anthony Richardson. I watched Jalen Milroe miss a strong side blitz. For people that don't understand what that is, that's the blitz that's coming right at you, right in your face, right? The right-handed quarterback, it's coming right. He misses that. Like, how do you miss the strong side blitz? Most quarterbacks have trouble having, feeling the pressure from the backside, from the weak side. That multiple times to where it was a strip sack. So he needs a place where he can sit and kind of develop. There's a team who just won a Super Bowl who has the luxury of being able to draft a guy like him in the 3rd round, right? Have him sit a year and a half and just kind of fill into the role of Jalen Hurts. Maybe if it doesn't work in a year or 2 from now, he can either Jalen Milroe, the project, it'll be completed and be able to go, or hey, it was a 3rd round pick and we can move on from the project. But for having upside, if he checks all the boxes, having that, that running capability, which I know in Dynasty, a lot of these guys will just drool over for quarterbacks. It's Jalen Milroe. I don't like his game at all. It's like, yeah, he can make one long deep throw that looks wow factor. Does the wide receiver have to bury him, take care of him, carry him out of it, like because he throws off a little bit, and then like the next 6 or 7, they're not even in the bucket range at all. So it's like a lot of questions. I question a lot of things that happen now with Alabama, how the room at Alabama and the culture has all changed. The vibe is more positive and upbeat now that Milroe's out. I don't know if it's because we're turning the page to a new chapter, but there's a lot of factors and stuff like that, red lights that go off when I look at that, especially when I got to see him at the Senior Bowl. A guy that I think people need to stop paying more attention to, though, in the quarterback department is the kid out of Syracuse, the ex-Ohio State Buckeye, Kyle McCord. I mean, he had the most big-time throws in college football in the nation with 37. Right, came out, I think, at 36. Joe was at like 33 somewhere in that department. He had the most passing yards. He had the most touchdowns, right? And he was doing it, not to knock these kids, with lesser talent at Syracuse than he had at Ohio State. And the kid was doing it week in, week out. He had one game where he just threw up on his feet. 5 picks, 3 of them were pick sixes. Yes. Everybody's going to want to hang the kid for that game. I understand. But to be able to have amnesia the next week, come back, throw for 300-something yards and 3 touchdowns, that speaks volumes for the kid. And the grit that he has. The talent was on display all year. The Shrine Bowl, he murdered. Absolutely murdered. There was so many scouts that loved him. He was dialed in at the Shrine Bowl. I got a feeling this kid takes a rise. It's either going to be him or Jackson Dart that I think could sneak into that QB3.
And I was going to go to Jackson Dart, but as a Colts fan, these are the kind of guys, I don't think the Colts are ready to give up on the Anthony Richardson experiment yet, but these are the kind of guys in that 3rd, 4th round that you can take a you can take a swing on. And if Richardson continues down the path that he is, let's be honest. I mean, if Richardson's bad in games 1 through 7, the Colts season's done. Then you could turn it over to a McCormick, or I doubt they draft a Jackson Dart, maybe a Jalen Milroe. It's like, why would you get Jalen Milroe when you got Jalen Milroe at home? But these feel like the kind of guys that you could take some big swings on. You mentioned Jackson Dart. I'm looking, and I always use Tankathon. I love their tab to be able to go from the mock draft to the big board to the full draft order. Very, very user-friendly. They have Jackson Dart going 42 overall. Do you think he, with a good combine, could sneak his way into the back end of that first round? Could maybe a team like LA, the Chargers, if they decide they want to move on from a Matthew Stafford and they want to get a young guy, maybe they go one more year of Matthew Stafford. Do you think there's a world where Jackson Dart could sneak into the NFL first round?
I think there's a world where Jackson Dart could sneak into 6 in the first round.
Good googly moogly.
Okay, because it's a lot of things they're going to rely on what the Giants are going to do, right? What they're going to do with their pick and how they're going to maneuver things. Well, what's Tennessee going to do at the top of the board? If they go Abdul Carter, well, holy moly, we're wide open for business with every team, right? Because now you got 3 quarterbacks on the board, but only 2 teams need them. And the Giants are drooling for a quarterback, so they're going to be trading to somebody, right? And so there's a lot of options there. But listen, the Raiders just brought in Carroll. He's a quarterback guy, right? He's an offensive guy, right? They brought in Chip Kelly, correct? He's an offensive-minded guy. We just seen what he did with Ohio State. Jackson Dart, my biggest questions for him is, what is it going to be like when you're under center and you got to make them tight window throws? Because in the SEC at Ole Miss, the way that team is developed, it's spread offense, 2 backs that can pass catches, right? We go 3 wide, we spread. He didn't really have to make them layer throws. He didn't have to really play on the center, right? My concern for him at the Senior Bowl, what I saw, his pocket presence, which was my same concern for Shador Sanders. They got happy feet. When they're on the center, they got happy feet. They're moving around, having trouble trying to, figure it out, moving when they don't need to move, right? Where they could just stay there, wait a half a second, and then find that read and fire the ball. He has the arm strength. He can do it. It's just he's got to get better in the pocket when it comes to him being under center instead of being in the shotgun, because he's losing that, second and a quarter between, the drop back to where he is on the center. So things are coming at him a little faster when he's on the center. But he has the arm. He can make all them throws. I would like him to sit a year or maybe a half a year, right? Learn a little bit from a veteran, which, hey, Carroll could go out, maybe get Russell Wilson, say, listen, homie, we'll guarantee you some, 1 year, cheap money. We'll give you 6 games. You know what I mean? If you ain't got it in the 6 games, we're turning over to the kid, but I need you to mentor this kid. Wouldn't be a bad look.
And I think you're right. I'm looking at the draft order now, and if Dart doesn't go 6 or 7 to either the Raiders or the Jets, then, maybe the Saints, but they're financially locked into Derek Carr for at least 1 more year. Does a team like Seattle take a shot and put him on the bench for a year behind a Geno? I'll tell you, look out for number 21 in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've already basically all but said that Justin Fields and Russ will not be back. So, a lot of teams still need a quarterback, and the drumbeat for Jackson Dart is growing day by day. So let's the quarterback class isn't great. Let's move on to the class that is. Everybody wants to talk running backs. I'm not quite no Ashton Genty talk yet, but out of the remainder of these guys, and we love Ashton Genty. Jerry and I have said, regardless, super flex, 1 QB, it does not matter. Genty is your 101. It's pretty simple stuff. But who are the guys beyond Genty that you like? And you can do the big name guys. You can do Caleb Johnson or Omarion Hampton, but also give us some more of those under the radar guys like a Marcus Yarns. Our boy Dallas, who does the rookie rundown for us. He liked Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, if I remember.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the rest of this class? Who are you excited for? Who's getting too much hype? And then hit us with a couple of those guys that names we need to know.
So obviously Gentry's at the top. Okay. And I was kind of, I'm not a guy that's going to go back on things I've said. So all year I was kind of like, who's he playing? What's he doing? Like, okay, yeah, against Oregon, he looked good, but he consistently did it every week. And when, like I say, it doesn't matter what school you're at, when you do it and you're the best in that conference and the best in the nation, it is what it is. You're that dude. So he's that guy, and I give him all the credit in the world. But a lot of people sleep on Caleb Johnson. Okay, like he's my two. I love Amari Hampton. I love Travion Henderson. Caleb Johnson for me, he kind of has like similar situation like Jetty. They knew that there was nothing else. You had no quarterback all year. They went through 5 of them all year. So they had a stack box, 8, 9 in the box. You couldn't stop the kid. The kid kept constantly turning the wheels. It wasn't 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He averaged over 5 yards per carry. He found the end zone. He knows how to block, right? He can run in between the tackles. If he can get him to the outside, he's patient, right? He lets his block set up at the second level. He has good hip fluidity. Oh, well, he doesn't catch many passes. Who in God's name was throwing him the ball?
Well,
and we're talking about Iowa Hawkeye football.
Thank you.
Who's been throwing the football in Iowa City at all this last decade?
But in fairness to him, you can only handle what you can handle. As a freshman, 4 catches. As a sophomore, 3 catches. Last year, 22 catches.
Right.
So we 7x'd. We literally 7x'd his previous season, his catches. He can catch the ball. He averaged 8.5 yards per catch and had 2 receiving touchdowns. It sounds like he's a better catcher of the football than people may want to give him credit for, given the quarterback play. Is that a fair assessment?
Also, I think the problem is everybody scouts the helmet when it comes to him. You see that, and you think it's going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but that boy is explosive. West Coast shit.
Yes.
Now, he can rip the roof off. As a person that is in Iowa, I fucking hate watching Iowa football. It's the most boring shit you've ever seen in your life. But Caleb Johnson is good. I'm with you, Nino.
I think this kid can be a 3-down back. He's versatile, like you said. Like, hey, that just speaks more volumes. In fact, he had 7 times more catches than he had his junior year, right? And they knew that he was the only option. The only thing on offense was that kid. And they could not stop him. If they had somewhat of a cohesive quarterback back there, who had some kind of, who could run it and pass the ball at the same time. Oh my God, this kid would have had even more numbers. He is a real deal kid, real deal Holyfield. He's probably going to fall later than some of these spicier names because, again, if you didn't watch film, you just watched highlights, right? You go by where he played and you go by stats. He might not be as juicy, and he might not be that T-bone that you like, but this kid is just as much of a big dog as any one of these top 5 running backs in this class. You mentioned Sampson, your buddy, right?
Yeah, but real quick on Caleb Johnson, it's bad form to disagree with the guest, but I think Caleb has second round written all over him. I think the league has looked at the success, especially if he blows up the combine. And that could be him or a Marion Hampton. I've mentioned before, Hampton was a high school track star, so he's probably going to run very well in the 40. But given the success of guys like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, more and more teams are running the ball. He's the biggest. Well, him and Ollie Gordon are the 2 biggest guys in this class, at least listed, 6 foot, 225. I think he was going to smash. I didn't mean to cut you off before you went into Henderson or anyone else, but man, I think his draft stock is going up just based off of, again, the pedigree, everything that you've mentioned, the athlete that he is, and then the success of the running back position over the last year and a half in the actual game.
If he runs sub 4.5 at the 40 at the combine, the drool machine is coming. Like, these guys are going to drool over. Why I say 4th round is, look, let's go back to the last 4 drafts, right? Outside of one guy, Bijan, and I think one of them in the 1st round, right? Where it's been a reach to get a runner. Yeah. It's been a reach to be successful for a running back in the 1st round. So most of the time, the run becomes 3rd round. I always say the 3rd round is the running back round. That's usually what they own. But the people at that time, they're going to go with the spicy names, right? So you're going to go with the Hendersons and the Amari Hamptons and the Judkins, right? And of course, the Tin Man Scatterboo, who I think, I love his game. I don't know if he has longevity. He might have 5 years in him. He might get to that second contract. But he better get a deal with WD-40, bro, because I can hear his hips and shoulders squeaking every single cut and juke that he tries to make. He makes it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't look as fluid as probably the top 8 or 9 guys in this class. So, but the name, what he's done for me lately, put his team on his back against Texas, the big dogs, right? GMs, scouts, they're all going to see that. And if he goes great off at the Underwear Olympics and the Spandex Parade, then everybody's going to be true. I think those guys could jump over Caleb Johnson, even if he has a good combine, just because they're already drooling over the name in the highlight reel.
Is there an NFL fit that you think Scadaboo, on top of the Underwear Olympics, but is there a team like if he went to I don't know, like the Cowboys always come to mind because they need a running back. Is there like a landing spot that's going to set the fantasy and dynasty world on fire?
I don't see, like, he looks to me like he could be like an Austin Eckler back in the NFL, right? He could be that guy, right? His style of play, bigger guy, jacked up dude, right? I know, a cliche, lighter skin running back, but I just don't know if it would work with the Chargers because they, who's going to be the guy there, right? Is J.K. Dobbins going to be that? But he could be that 1-2 combo with J.K. Dobbins, then take over that role in a year or two, maybe. So if he went to the Chargers, I like it. I think there needs to be a successor to James Conner, correct? Like someone has to take
Trey Benson fans. I mean, I was not one of them, but Trey Benson fans, I mean, if you like running backs that run in a straight line up the backs of their offensive line, but Trey Benson's your guy. But
if you like running backs to run the opposite holes that are open, yeah, he might be a guy too, right? Like Donovan Edwards, that's a problem. Donovan Edwards runs hard in the wrong direction. So I think Scadaboo with Kyler Murray in a system like that, like where he got a year behind Conner, with James Conner for the last season, get a proven veteran, can kind of groom him on how to be at the next level. I think that could be successful for him. Teams like that, those style of offenses have a receiver, have a receiver and a tight end at a set, right? So like you have the deep end of the field, layers covered, the deep end, the middle of the field, and now this guy can do well in the running game, can eat in the short and intermediate pass game. I think teams like that would be ultimately home runs for him.
And you were going to have a take on Dylan Sampson. What were your thoughts on Dylan Sampson?
Well, we're going to talk about guys where it's coming and you can't stop it. I'm a Nico guy. Nico was damn near trash all season, and I think there's problems for him in Tennessee. He has trouble reading multiple reads. He's having trouble with a lot of things. One side of the field, he's having trouble with the deep balls, inconsistent on one side of the field. They stacked boxes. Dylan Sampson literally put this whole team on his back. 22 touchdowns he had for them. 22. So you knew it was coming and you couldn't stop it between the 20s and you couldn't stop it in the red zone. I want to say it was either in the bowl game or one of the final SEC games. They just kept trying to pass Nico. They took Dylan Sampson out in the first quarter. He only had like 3 rushes, nothing. Came in the second half, had almost 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they won the game because of him alone. He was the offense. He has been the offense for them since week, 12 of 2023, and they have no answer for him. 5'11", right? Just under 200 pounds. He runs a sub 4.40. When this guy's in the open field, bye-bye. Have fun catching him. He can juke the pants off of you. He's a dude that can make you miss in a phone book, and he is not Scadaboo, man. This guy has hip fluidity and good pad level. I love everything about this kid's game. This is a guy, I compare backs, right? I'll tell everybody, I said it at the Senior Bowl as well. I compare backs now to the modern NFL. You got to have, like, Detroit. It's got to be a Montgomery and a Gibbs, right? You got to have, like, Zeke and Pollard like you had with Dallas, right? Well, this is he may not be as shifty as Gibbs, but he's got that workhorse as David Montgomery. So if you're looking for that guy to be able to do both, because you don't have he's the guy who could carry you for a year or two and be a workhorse for a year or two until you found his partner in crime. You know what I'm saying?
To me, I mean, I know you mentioned Scadaboo there to the Cardinals. I think this is more of a better fit. I think, Connor has more of that Montgomery role, and you could bring in a guy like Sampson to be that Gibbs role. I think that would be fantastic. I mean, I would love to see him. This is always it's lazy content, I guess. But what about if he would wind up in Chicago with Ben Johnson? We saw what Ben Johnson did with Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, that's the paint by numbers. Jerry, do you have any running back questions before we asking for some sneaky sleepers that like a Marcus Yarns or other guys?
No, I mean, probably. He really had me at can juke the pants off of you. I wrote that down. I mean, that's a good one. I'm definitely stealing that one, just so you know. But no, talk about the big name guys before we start talking about, the sleeper guys. Who are you skeptical about? Is it Travion? Is it Omarion? Is it Judkins? Which Ohio State guy should I be looking at and why?
What style back you want? That's my thing. If you want,
I want a guy with that when it's week 17 and I'm going against Randy in my championship. I want him to cry tears and I want to taste his tears. I want him to send me money. That's what I want. Who you think is going to get into the league and is going to be a productive member of their team as soon as possible. I'm selfish. I play this game because I want to piss Randy off. I want Randy to lose. I'm in like 11 leagues with him, and he's a cocky shit. And when he wins, he doesn't let me forget about it. So I can't let that happen.
See, you can be cocky when you win, right? Because that's what you're supposed to. That means you know what you're doing. And when it's not just a one and done type deal, then you have to talk shit. So kudos to him, But when it comes to the Ohio State backs, if you want a guy day one that's going to be scoring points, I think Quinshon Judkins, that dude. I'll tell you why I chose him over Henderson in a minute, but Quinshon Judkins is violent, okay? They were neck and neck, same amount of yards. I would think the same amount of touchdowns, same amount of yards per carry all season. In the big games, Quinshon would be the guy that came out right out the gate and would stuff and beat the piss out of that front seven that he was facing, and he was winning against Oregon. He literally ran the ball right down the throw in the opening drive and drove that defensive line back for an 8-yard touchdown as if they weren't even there. They didn't even exist. He has that will and that dog in him. Like, you're not stopping me. He's the closest thing mentality-wise to a Derrick Henry. He will run right through you if he has to. There's not a guy that he believes in the NFL or college that can stop him, right? And I love that. But he's produced at Ole Miss. He went to Ole Miss and told Lane, I'm the guy, and if I'm not getting paid like the guy, I'm out. And they said, well, then you might want to go. Okay, I went, and I did it at Ohio State, and I did it with a natty, bro. So I guess I made the right decision. I just think that he's a guy that plug and play is going to work because week one in the red zone, they're going to give it to him, right? When the back's tied, they're going to give it to this guy. He's going to get them manufactured carries where it's 5, 6 to 10 off the first couple of weeks. And once you see how he plays and how he produces, he's just going to eat into that role and continue to eat into that role. When it comes to Henderson, he's the more explosive guy, right? But it took me 2 years after the injury to be able to be okay. I'll put the stamp back on it that he's got that explosiveness, and I'm okay with what I see because it looked like in the beginning of last season he wanted to go, but he just didn't have enough confidence in the injury to go and flash. This year, man, I think because the dog was there, iron sharpens iron. Judkins he could have went to the NFL. He said, "No, I'll stay, and I'm gonna battle with the big dog, right?" And they were a good 1-2 combo. He's a guy who believes in his faith. The Ohio State, a lot of these guys got baptized. He was a big part of that. And yes, I believe Henderson can be a 3-down back. My concern is late in the game. Late third quarter, fourth, is he going to have it still, right? Because of the injuries, he's still going to have that explosiveness that you need for a guy like him late in games. Well, we know Judkins is going to have that explosive, that mentality, that just if it's 3 yards of the cloud of dust, that's fine. But he took down 3 guys and they're hurting, they're breathing, they're holding their knees and they're gasping for air. That is why I would take Judkins over Henderson for that reason.
Well, we're going to get into some of the guys that Nino has as sleepers at the running back position. But if you want to put this knowledge to work and you're itching to draft, you may want to check out FastDraft Origins.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Jimino won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on FastDraft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite player profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
There you go. A chance to put all this knowledge to work, and best ball season is here as well. So check out FastDraft if you have it downloaded, Google Play, Apple Store, whole 9 yards. All right, Nino, you had the commercial break there to start putting together your list of sleepers, of names. I don't want to go so deep in the hole that we go, I need this year's James Robinson.
No,
but can we at least get a guy that's going to be like a Bucky Irving, a guy who might fall to the 5th, 6th round of the NFL draft, and by the time we look up in week 12 is the lead back in an offense and kicking some ass for fantasy football?
LaQuint Allen Jr. out of Syracuse. When they say, jack of all trades, master of none, this guy's not the best at any one single trait, but he's really, really, really good at every single trait as a running back. He can pass pro, right? he can run in between the tackles. He can run outside. He get good hands. Every single year, he's consistently done his thing when it comes to receiving. I believe he's had 23 or more receptions for 3 straight years, right? He's got 60-plus receptions in his collegiate career. A blend of everything that you want in a modern-day back. You know what I'm saying? A guy that possibly could be a third down back, 6 foot, just over 200 pounds, runs. He's not the fastest guy, 4.57 or 4.55. I think he runs the 40. So he doesn't have that blazing speed, but he got burst out of the hole. He's got some twitch to him, right? This kid can do everything you want. Like I said, he's not the guy that just, he's so good at juke. He can juke his pants off you. This guy's unbelievable. He make you miss in the phone booth. This guy gets out to the outside edge and he's gone. But he does every single aspect that you want in a running back really, really, really damn good. And I think this kid, a lot of people might have him outside of like the top 10. I got him right around 8. I think he, after the Senior Bowl and everything he showed, picking up blocks, just cutting up linebackers when it came to running routes in the one-on-ones. Everything that this kid does and just his gameplay, I think shot him up in a lot of people into the top 10.
I really love the pass catching profile. Over about 120 catches in college in 3 years of a college career. Good size, 6 foot, 201. This to me feels like that value pick that like a coach like Sean Payton takes with the Denver Broncos. And again, I'm at least going to go to like the media day of the NFL Combine. And the 40's great. But let me ask you a question, because ball. And Jerry, you can chime in on this too. I would rather have a running back who has more burst than a running back who has that blazing speed. Obviously, in an ideal world, you would want both. It's great to have both. Right. Everybody would be Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. It would be, but it's not. But if I have to choose one, when we see these burst metrics for the running backs, would you rather have that as opposed to that top-end sprinter speed?
Give me the burst. I want a guy that can create separation, right? Off a quick burst, in and out the line, boom, okay, now he's got a little bit. Doesn't necessarily need to be able to run for 75 yards, but you keep giving me 20, 25, 10, 12. Like, you know what I mean? You're catching separation with quick bursts, and that's where you're going. I don't need the guy that's track fast, right? I also don't want the guy that's got a 4.8 speed with quick burst. But you got 4.5 speed, and you're quick in and out of holes. With every burst you make is fast, and you get separation off that. I'm good, man.
Well, allow us to be greedy and give us one more. Give us one more. We'll stick on running back. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this one right here at the line of scrimmage. So we're already 45 minutes into this show. We're not going to be able to do the wide receiver position any justice in like 10 minutes. That would be bullshit, and it would be unfair to Nino. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up running backs. We're going to start with some tight ends, and then when we finish the show, we're going to invite Nino back to do a part 2 of this. It'll be the Nino Brown Experience Part 2. But give us another.
He's been working on that French while
I had to redeem myself from earlier. So far, the names of the running back position I've written down are Marcus Yarns, LaQuint Allen Jr. Give us a third one because, well, this is why I love having guys like Nino on, because while everybody else has got their mind focused on the Judkins and the Hendersons and the O'Marion Hamptons of the world, I want to learn more about the Yarns and the Allens, and then who else?
Brashad Smith, the former Miami Hurricane turned SMU running back. This guy was a wide receiver at Miami, right? I think he had like 70 receptions for almost 800 yards in 3 years at Miami. Goes to SMU, says, you know what? I'm going to be a running back. Dude, 230 plus attempts in his first year as a running back, almost 6 yards per carry, 1,300 yards, right? And this dude is a receiving threat. 40 receptions, almost 400 yards. You know I talk about Jans? He was the only other back like Jans that had that ability at the top of the route to get faster and more explosive out of the cut. Him and Jans were killing linebackers, making one-hand. Brashad Smith probably made like 2 or 3 one-handed catches down the sideline. He has great awareness, obviously, because he was a wide receiver of the boundary. His footwork is super clean. This is a dude that could get work, in the receiving game right off the rip. He's good. He has that like Jahmyr Gibbs style receiving ability to him. He's a guy that I think his receiving ability alone will get him on the field very, very soon in the NFL.
I'm looking at his production, and Jerry, this is why, like during the rookie season, we got to have guys like Nino on. Like the guy went and played running back at SMU, and he said he's a former wide receiver. Remember that, write that part down. Former wide receiver, set a career high in receptions at the running back position. This is the kind of guy. Listen, am I going to be super excited if he winds up with like I don't know, like a Tennessee Titans or, I'm trying to think like a clunky offense? No. But if they were to draft this guy to be like the heir apparent to a Christian McCaffrey, because you know how, Kyle Shanahan wants to involve the running back in the passing game. Same thing with the Broncos. Same thing with the Chargers. This is the kind of guy that gets me excited to do Dynasty Fantasy Football. This great profile. What do you think he's going to run? Now, I know he's not going to be the, super high-end guy, but how's he going to test out in Indy?
He's fairly quick. I mean, he's not, sub 4.4 speed, but I think he's going to surprise the shit out of you. I think he's going to run like probably 4.42, 4.4, 4.41. Like he's going to be low 4.4s, which I think will be enough to have everybody saying, I'm cool with taking this guy as a receiving threat. You know what I'm saying? Like to bring him in. What? This guy's game just screams like 5'10", 196. Maybe puts on. If he could get to that 200-pound mark, it would be great at the NFL. But tell me that this guy wouldn't be great. I know everybody wants, Kendrick Miller to finally be a thing. He can't seem to be a thing.
Stop it.
In New Orleans, right? If he could fill in and be the next Alvin Kamara with the hands, the speed, right? Being a weapon, you put it. If Olave stays there, now you have another guy that can spread the field. Hey. Learn a year under Alvin Kamara and the ways, man. His game would translate well in New Orleans.
These are the kind of guys that I love as a fantasy option. You saw it in the playoffs with the Lions, and Jerry, you're a Lions fan. The way they used Gibbs in the passing game and in very sneaky fashion, because guys like this create mismatches, right? You see 11 personnel, 12 personnel. The defensive, staff sends out the right package, and then all of a sudden you're in 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end set, and then all of a sudden you got a Brashard Smith lining up in the slot motion out of the backfield. Is he on a linebacker? Is he on a safety? Can they cover him? Is he going to crush him? This is fantastic news. I do want to spend a little bit of time. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to spend about just a little time talking about the tight ends. So first question. Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland? Who is your tight end one in this class?
Harold Fanning Jr.
I knew it. He went to the Senior Bowl. The guy had 117 catches. I am not surprised. Well, we'll let you talk about Fanning Jr., but tell us of your pick between Warren and Loveland. If Nino, you're the GM of a team that wants a tight end and you want to use them like a Kittle or a Kelsey or whatever, who is GM Nino Brown taking?
Tyler Warren. I mean, the guy lined up, I think, at like 4 or 5 different positions for Penn State. They even had him on the line a few times. He ran Wildcat. Like, this dude can line up anywhere. Another guy, he's another tight end that had over 100 targets and receptions. He was the team. They had one other receiver on that team. I think it was Wallace, who had over 400 yards. And then that was it. He was everything for them. Couldn't stop him. Big teams couldn't stop. He played in the Big Ten, where like defenses are made to stop tight ends because every team in the Big Ten has a tight end that's useful. They couldn't stop him. This guy is a Swiss Army knife. He's not as big as David Njoku, but I think he could do the same style of damage as David Njoku, right? He could be a dominant red zone threat. He could be a guy you can line up anywhere. He's going to be an absolute chain mover at the next level. I could see this guy, racking up the first downs, being a top 5 guy in the NFL in first downs, committed, because he just knows where to be. He knows where the first down marker is, and he's always moving forward.
And Tyler Warren, it's a tough comp for him to compare him to Gronk, but physically, from a height and size standpoint, Gronk 6'6", 265 pounds. Tyler Warren 6'6", 261 pounds, and the dude can move.
Yes.
Give us some time on Harold Fanning Jr. because
listen, hold on. So real quick on this cat. God damn, Nino, this man had 1,500 yards.
Yeah, dude.
Are you kidding me, Randy? Did you know that guy had 1,500 yards?
Yes. See,
I've been forcing myself to talk about a fucking Wolverine for the last month. I could have been talking about this Ohio cat. Are you kidding me?
No. I'm telling you, this Tyler Warren. Again, I hate to always rely on the coaching narrative, but you put him with a coach who knows how to use the tight ends, and just good offensive coaches, like, and the Bears will probably do it because the Bears are just crazy enough to do it. If this guy were to go to Chicago and be used the way that Ben Johnson used to Sam Laporta, if he were to go to Denver and be used by Sean Payton,
it doesn't.
You imagine
matter.
this guy being the Jimmy Graham for those of
Dynasty players are going to hype up whoever they want to hype up when it comes to the tight end position, and if they know the big 2 names, whenever they go or wherever they go, they'll find any excuse to make them the absolute next best thing that's ever happened. I got news for you. 8 out of 10 tight ends don't hit for dick. Listen, we got fortunate to get Sam Laporta, and even he struggled a little bit this year, right? He was a little disappointing come where you had to draft him. Brock Bowers, animal, right?
Unicorn.
Yeah, 100%. But we don't know what that's going to look like in the future. What if he regresses a little bit? So. And then we can go back 100 years. We can go to OJ Howard, and we can name 1,000 other guys that have had this super early draft capital, never really panned out. I'm curious though. So I didn't know about this Fanning guy. I didn't. I am not a full degenerate like you, my friend. But 117 catches, 1,550 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Listen, I know my man played at Bowling Green, but I'm guessing you have watched why he has been so dominant. Tell me why he has been so dominant.
Yeah, all right. So this is what's crazy. At his size, right? Let's see, what's his size? 6'4", 230, 235.
Okay. Thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
Ran over 20 miles an hour. That's not normal, right? He was clocked at the Senior Bowl running over 20 miles. This dude can boogie. This dude, I watched him run a curl route to the far side of the end zone on one-on-one, right? One-handed, beat the dude one-handed, tiptoed in the end zone. Boop, boop. Then on the next set, one-on-one, runs straight up, hits him with a double fake, blows the guy right by him, curses him over, right by the goalpost, touchdown, boom. Like, all the questions were, Warren and Loveland, they all can pass, ball, and run block. I watched Harold Fanning at the Senior Bowl run dudes over, like, have his way. Yes, he lost a couple of reps, but the questions that needed to be answered were answered, because day 2 and 3, all you heard every time Harold Fanning Jr. was on an offensive set was, "Ooh, wow, oh, damn, he's back." Harold Fanning Jr. is a dude. Don't scout the helmet, scout the player. This kid is Aaron Hernandez, baby.
I mean,
No,
we're
no,
we're
no.
talking 20 years
There's a-
old too.
there's a
July. I mean,
lofty
but I mean,
comp.
he'll be 21 years old coming in. So it's somebody I'm gonna look at. I'm just saying, when you got a tight end and they catch 17 passes in a game, I don't care that it's against Arkansas State. We took 17.
20-something targets.
17. Randy, if I walk up the 17 stairs up to my apartment, I'm winded. This man caught 17 passes in a Division I college football game.
Without question. I do want to wrap it up with one more tight end. What were your thoughts on Elijah Arroyo? Because I saw some buzz during the Senior Bowl, but it was mixed buzz. Some people liked him. Some people weren't super impressed. What were your thoughts on Arroyo?
Arroyo walked away from the Senior Bowl as my tight end too. Like from the Senior Bowl, all right? This kid, for a thick-bodied wide receiver, tight end, he was moving like a wide receiver out there, right? He was winning day 2 and 3. He just kept winning. He doesn't in the red zone. Good luck trying to cover a kid that can go up and contested catches that's as big in his size. Like him and CJ Dupree are thick-bodied tight ends, and they were constantly winning in one-on-one reps. Elijah had a little twitch to him for a big body tight end who can block. Yeah, so he's the guy with no question. He can play in line, right? He can chip and slide. You can slide him out to the slot if you need to. He can win there. He's good on the boundary. Great in the red zone. Great in contested catch. What else do you need? I mean, just the name wasn't there. You all know about the big names. Every time he goes and plays the best of the best in the competition, he just keeps winning and getting better and better and making a name for himself. Easily has to be a top 5 tight end in his class, and he ain't 5.
All right, well, give us a sleeper tight end. Give us a name that you haven't mentioned, because you're the guy who knows these guys, because you start tracking them coming out of high school. You're big into the high school recruiting and the college scene. Some of the guys that you've been tweeting about for years, you're probably almost bored talking about these guys, but give us a sleeper tight end that, given the right potential landing spot, could do something from a receiving standpoint. I know some of these guys can block, but give us a pass catcher.
Terrence Ferguson. He's a guy out of Oregon, QB proof, right? I mean, I know the system is going to mold the quarterback to play the same style, but he went from Bo 2 years to Dylan Gabriel. And the kid, when you look at him on the screen, he looks a little clunky, but man, when you see him in person, he knows how to move. He's another guy that can to play in line to get out, but man, he don't drop anything in that short and intermediate game. This kid can eat, and then if you slide him out and he gets, when a curl gets to the boundary, he can win. He's very aware of the boundary. He's got good footwork. I think this is a kid. I know the problem is with tight ends, we've been spoiled because we've had tight ends pop in year 1. Most of the time in fantasy and dynasty, it's 2 to 3 years. It takes a little bit to get to the system. It takes a little bit to, put a little mass on, be understand that the guy across me you're run blocking against or pass blocking against is better than the guy you had to go against in college every other, Saturday. So, but I think this kid, 6'5", 260, 255, big kid, right? Can be a safety blanket for a quarterback, especially in that RPO style offense, that West Coast offense. I think this kid can be an app. Like, he could go to a 49ers or a style scheme like that and just be a dude that just eats, getting, 8 targets and 5 to 6 receptions every week.
Well, that is number 7 of the sleeper names that I've written down that Nino's gotten here. So you can get all those by writing them down yourself or heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I'm going to type all these up and put them in the group chat and then pin them so that all of our patrons have easy access to them. You can also follow Nino on socials at _Nino Brown _. Also follow at the CFB Nation, because we got Jamie in the chat. Jamie's such a tremendous supporter of the show. He knows that commenting on posts really helps drive the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much for all of your support. But head over and follow Nino and engage with him on socials. Help drive up the CFB Nation. Help drive up Nino Brown. And if you see a tweet on someone, a prospect, and you want Nino's opinion, Nino, you probably don't care if people at you on Twitter.
Nope. At me, shoot me a DM, anything you want, man. And this is I love just talking ball and talking player prospects and analysis. So I'm always game.
And we are 100% committed to getting Nino back on. We got to do wide receivers. Some poor bastard tuned in like like somewhere after the second commercial break, and they're like, "No, wait a second, I've not heard." Because like I literally sent Nino a list of 25 questions. I've asked one. I could talk to Nino all day, but again, you won't buy the milk if the cow is free. You got to go check out Nino's stuff. He's a tremendous follow, and you can tell he's just a fun guy to hang out with. Jerry, do you have anything as we wrap this show up and take it home?
No, this is a fantastic show. I wrote down a ton of stuff, which, like I said at the beginning, I'm a selfish man. That's why I do it. I appreciate the work you put in, which is why everybody should follow you and everybody should consume your content, because obviously if we could get all that out, if we can get probably 15, 16, 17 names in an hour, what the fuck you think this man does the rest of his days? Are you kidding me?
Well,
so no, awesome stuff, and tons of good names that I am going to look into now. And listen, I appreciate the tight ends just because we play in a lot of tight end premium leagues and we play in 2 tight end leagues. And you know what I'm bad at? Having good tight ends in those leagues. And then Randy beats me, and then I can't win my damn trophy, and he takes my damn money, and he's got enough of my damn money. I don't want to give it to him anymore. So I appreciate you.
These are all facts. Yeah, we'll get Nino back. I'll get him on the DMs, and we'll get him scheduled back. We've got Theo Grimminger next week. Just a ton of good stuff. And then you're going to see me at the NFL Combine with a press pass, things that I never would have thought would have happened in a million years. Check out Dynasty Deluxe. Check out FastDraft. When you sign up, you use code WarZone. It'll save you a couple of bucks. There's promo deals associated, and we appreciate you. But on behalf of Nino and the returning Jerry, I am Memphis. And remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we are just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you guys back here next week with Uncle Theo.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.